2025 was the year many European countries shifted position as the war in Gaza intensified, placing pressure on Israel and showing more support for Palestine, including recognition for the state of Palestine. France joined countries like the UK, Canada and Australia. Humanitarian flotillas attempted to deliver aid. The Irish comedian Tadhg Hickey was one of them, and he spoke to us about his ordeal in an Israeli jail. Plus, we went to Ireland to find out why the country is such a huge supporter of the Palestinian cause. And in sport, football fans joined the movement Show Israel the Red Card. What impact did that make? Hello and welcome to Roundtable's Year in Review. I'm Enda Brady, and today we look at Europe's growing support for Palestine throughout 2025. In a significant step, several European countries finally declared their intention to formally recognise a state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly in September. The French President, Emmanuel Macron, made his announcement in front of delegates in New York. So why did they decide to do it now, and what difference did it make? All this talk of recognising Palestine, we've had Canada, France, Australia, the UK and others. How do you feel hearing all of this week?
Heartwarming. It was really joyful to hear such a speech 77 years late, 60 souls being slaughtered to death, a genocide, and there's no West Bank to be recognized or Palestine to be recognized. Everyone was demanding us to be thankful or be happy, but I cannot stop think about what exactly are you going to recognize? Which Palestinian state are we talking about? And most importantly, why now? Why do you care that much right now? Is it conspiracy to make it easier for Israel to take over the West Bank? Because it was clear the right far-wing government made it clear by Smotrich and Ben Gvir, the triangle of devil, this is how we call it in Palestine with Netanyahu, that, recognize it and we will make sure that we're going to take over the West Bank.
Thanks, Faten. I want to bring Mark in on that. Mark, it's a very good point Faten raises. Why now? Is this just diplomatic theatre?
I think it's more than theatre. I totally agree. It's 77 years too late. But what it does is actually, it does show that 80% or more of UN member states now recognize Palestine. It leaves the United States and Israel even more isolated. It enables the general populaces of all of those countries that have just recognized Palestine to ask all of those same questions. Okay, now you've recognized Palestine. What are you going to do to make sure there's something of Palestine to recognize? And that follows up with all that many of us have been pushing for a very long time, for the adoption of a militarized humanitarian convoy, if necessary, no-fly zones, all the rest of it, to give real give real heft to all of this. I think that in many respects, these governments, especially the British government, obviously the German, the Italian government, still haven't recognized Palestine, but they've been forced to do this by the enormous amount of pressure from the publics. And I think there's going to be a lot more of this.
Thank you, Mark. Siobhan, to you, pressure is building on Israel, but so many other countries, we're seeing people on strike and protesting in Italy where you are. The support for Palestine globally has probably never been higher. That is the awful irony of the situation. The people in Gaza being starved to death, bombed to bits, and yet the world is looking in and right-minded people are standing on the right side of history.
Yeah, I think that the recognition hasn't come from anywhere. I think it's come from people mobilizing all across the world, from students to dock workers. We've seen it in Italy, but it's been ongoing since the first few weeks after October 7th. But I think the people require something more of these countries diplomatically recognizing Palestine. And I think I'm in agreement there with more of this cynic approach of, for example, the UK's recognition being based on certain conditions on Israel, not concerning actually that self-determination is a human right, and it doesn't ever and shouldn't ever come with conditions. So this is something that I kind of more into the feeling of that it is kind of a diplomatic tool at this point. At the same time, the General Assembly and, like you said, the support for Palestine is greater than ever before. So I think here we need a strong UN General Assembly to support that momentum moving forward.
Now, multiple humanitarian flotillas attempted to reach Gaza in 2025 to bring much-needed aid to the region. The Irish comedian Tadhg Hickey was one of those, joining the activist Greta Thunberg on an expedition where they were eventually detained by Israeli forces. We travelled to Cork in Southern Ireland, where we spoke to him shortly after he had returned home. Talk to me about an Israeli prison. So you're stopped, you're detained in international waters, which is against international law.
Yeah.
You're then dumped in an Israeli prison. What was it like?
It was just so surreal, because on the way to the prison and when we first got there, I just kept thinking to myself, there's no way they'll get away with treating Westerners like this. And I say that, you know, being aware of the kind of privilege that Westerners have. For one, I'm not a fan of the privilege that Westerners have. It's something that I rail against, but that's the way the world works. And I thought with the kind of passports of privilege that we have, that there would be a certain way we'd be treated that wouldn't be on the same planet as the way that they treat Palestinians. We all know that Israelis treat Palestinians with a level of impunity that's terrifying and horrifying. And I'm not comparing, obviously we weren't treated exactly as Palestinians are treated. We weren't beaten up, we weren't murdered, we weren't physically tortured. But we were brought, to be fair to Ben Gvir, he kept his promise. He brought us to a terrorist camp. We were in the same camps the Palestinians would be in. We were dressed in the same prison garb. And we were denied some of the same human rights. We weren't allowed sleep. They would come into our cells roughly every hour or 2 hours, turn on the lights, do this artificial count just to keep us awake. Sometimes they would do that armed. Sometimes there were SWAT teams accompanying them to do their random counts. There was a talk of seeing a lawyer at the start, and then nobody I know saw a lawyer. You weren't allowed to see a doctor. You weren't allowed to get medicine. The one thing that really drove me crazy for some reason was we had no access to water. So there was no, you'd see all these Israelis, a lot of them with lighter skin than I would have, even though they're obviously indigenous to the land, as you know, drinking bottled water, and we didn't have any access to water whatsoever, and they would like flick their hand towards the toilet that they wanted us to drink this obviously contaminated brown water in the toilet. Some of us did and some of us didn't. And I just couldn't believe that they were going to realistically get away with treating people of privilege like this, and the world was going to look the other way. It was just so shocking to me.
So just for the record, no phone call home to tell your family where you were, no access to a doctor, and no drinking water.
No drinking water. If you were happy to drink the contaminated water in the toilet, great. I mean, it was brown. That was up to you. But much more than that, no access to medication. So Paddy Kelly was in cell 16, I was in cell 17, and there was pretty much close to a riot one night with people trying to get Paddy his insulin. He's diabetic, he needs his insulin. He didn't get his insulin since he got to Israel. This is night 2, I think. And the whole of my wing are like hammering on doors. It was actually very beautiful because it was like young Algerian and Moroccan lads who started it. It wasn't like an Irish thing. It was a solidarity for all the participants. And we caused such a kerfuffle that the Israelis came into our cell, again, armed SWAT teams, guns pointed in your face, lasers all over the room, dogs. And they punished us like for causing the kerfuffle. He never got his insulin. He never got his insulin that night, the next night, or the following night. He left Israel without having his insulin whatsoever. When he told them very, very clearly, I may die, and they didn't care. They didn't care. And I quote one of the guards that night, said, we don't have any doctors for animals. And that's the way they referred to us, with a gleefulness that I think you can only have if you've enjoyed the most extraordinary impunity for the last 2 years and arguably the last century.
Do you feel you were treated worse because you're Irish and Israel really has very little time for Irish people?
Definitely. I don't know, is it personally because of me and some of the outspoken things I've said in my comedy work and stuff, which tends to target Israel. But I know that I was manhandled off the boat I was on. My head was like close to the floor. My arms were up in the air as if they had captured some sort of, renowned Al-Qaeda terrorist. And they called me Irish, and I was thrown to the floor in the same way that some of the Arabs and Palestinians were. And I thought I was getting a glimpse of, because for me, when you're there, it's very clearly an openly racist society. The darker the colour of your skin, the more likely you are to receive heinous treatment. There was one Norwegian Palestinian participant. They asked him where he was from. He said Norway. And then they said, well, where are you really from? And he said Palestine. And he was taken away to be isolated straight away. They're almost cartoonish in their open racism and specific hatred for Palestinians. But yeah, absolutely, the Irish were treated. Another Irish participant, when he told the doctor where he was from, he went, Ireland. And it was like, it just, again, blew my mind that in my country, we have a roaring trade with this state. We allow our Shannon airport to be used by the Americans to transport weapons for Israel so they can continue their extermination campaign. Up until recently, the central bank were buying Israeli war bonds. And I just want the ordinary average Irish person to understand how much these people despise us. We might as well sanction them. We might as well break off diplomatic relationships. It's just extraordinary to me that, they can look at us this way, and they can kidnap us in international waters, and they can do these things to us. And I just kept thinking to myself, imagine if Iran or Russia did this to Irish citizens. The uproar we'd have would be no one's business. But again, there's a kind of an exceptionalism around Israel that I think Ireland plays a really key role in upholding.
Well, as Tadhg referenced in our interview, the Irish people have long been very supportive of the Palestinian cause. The Irish government was one of the first European countries to recognise the state of Palestine following Israel's bombardment of Gaza after October the 7th. So, during the Roundtable team's time in Cork, we found out why support for Palestine is so strong there.
Talk to me about the remarkable relationship between Ireland and Palestine. It's a beautiful, beautiful relationship.
It's something I've personally seen grow over the past 25 years that I've been involved in Palestine solidarity work, from what was, I think, always a political commitment to Palestinian justice and freedom into a very deep emotional, and I'd say at this stage almost spiritual connection. I've certainly witnessed over the past 2 years a plethora of different groups emerging, amongst some Mothers Against Genocide, healthcare workers for Palestine, a lot of people from various different walks of life and professions and life experiences becoming quite intimately involved in both bearing witness and taking action. So I think obviously there's historical resonance and commonality vis-a-vis occupation, and an understanding, too, of the meaning of resilience, the meaning of withstanding, some of the horror that we've witnessed that our Palestinian friends and comrades and colleagues have had to withstand, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank over the past 2 years and the decades that preceded it.
Thank you, Caoimhe. Joe, talk to me about the history between the two countries and bring in Israel as well, because there is some history there too between Ireland.
There is a lot of history, and a strangely intertwined history between Ireland and Palestine and the State of Israel, partly because Ireland was in the British Empire as a colony in the modern era, and Palestine was a British protectorate. The Chaim Herzog, for instance, the president of Israel, was born in Belfast and raised in Dublin. His father was the chief rabbi of Ireland, and he was known as the rebel rabbi, or the Sinn Féin rabbi. He spoke fluent Irish, which was very unusual. He supported Irish independence and revolutionary movements very wholeheartedly. And then during the Second World War, when the groups like Irgun and the Stern Gang emerged, they based their terrorism, some would call it, their campaign against the British, on Irish revolutionary leaders such as Michael Collins, the famous Irish revolutionary leader. In fact, Yitzhak Shamir, who went on to become Mossad chief and president of Israel, his code name was Michael, after Michael Collins. So historically, there were a lot of connections between the State of Israel and between Ireland, going back right back to the foundation of Israel. But what actually happened strangely is that those relations in the 60s and 70s, Ireland sent peacekeepers, and over 40,000 Irish soldiers have served in the Lebanon as peacekeepers. And they saw up close what was happening in southern Lebanon with Israeli proxies, with the absolute devastation of the Lebanese civil war, and were caught in the middle of this. And Irish soldiers lost their lives, targeted by Israeli proxy forces in southern Lebanon. So the Irish attitude to Israel changed. The Israelis didn't have an embassy in Ireland until the mid-90s. Benjamin Netanyahu came to Ireland in 1991 and asked the Irish government, can we set up an embassy? And they said, well, we have problems because we support the UN. Ireland has always been a very staunch UN supporter. Ireland is a non-aligned neutral country and respects the territorial integrity of countries and the right of people to have their own sovereignty. And it was a major problem, and Ireland said no, basically, and the first Israeli embassy only opened in Ireland in 1996.
And now it doesn't exist anymore.
Virtually, I mean, you know, in the modern era, since what has happened in Gaza, it has become very, very difficult diplomatically. The Irish government are being targeted, for instance, by hardcore Zionist supporters in the US, including the US ambassador, has said some things about Ireland, basically saying we support terrorism, we support this, we support that, where the Irish government would say we are just supporting the right of people to exist.
Thanks, Joe. Talk to me about your cafe and your business and life in Cork. You can't travel anywhere here without seeing a Palestinian flag. That must lift your heart when things get hard following the news coverage.
Yeah, definitely it's a source of comfort and a source of pride to be walking around Ireland, everywhere, every city, and seeing Palestinian flags along with Irish flags. This actually gave us the potential to continue supporting our people and our cause. Like initially, it wasn't us who used to take the initiative. For example, in 2021, there was about a 1-month war on Gaza, and there used to be weekly demos to support Palestine, like against the war on Gaza, and people used to come and offer donations to help the people of Gaza, and I told them, like, I can't collect donations. I'm a business. I'm not a charity. So some of our customers came and said, why don't you, for example, cooperate with a charity and raise funds in one of your business days? So I took that idea seriously and designated the next weekend to be donated to Gaza. So we posted on social media, we are donating the sales of desserts and coffee next Sunday to Trokra.
It's an Irish charity that does
an
incredible work worldwide, yeah.
And the surprise was at 10 a.m. in the morning when I opened the door to start receiving orders, the queue was about 200-300 meters away, and people were waiting the queue for hours to just buy some cakes and coffee and support the fundraising.
A pro-Palestinian movement started by Celtic football fans in Scotland swept across clubs globally in 2025. The Show Israel the Red Card campaign gathered momentum in stadiums across Europe and beyond, calling for Israel to be banned from international football. Talk to me about how FIFA is handling this campaign then, because some people are saying there's double standards by the world governing body. Russia started its war with Ukraine in February 2022, and very quickly Russia was banned from all international football. And not only that, they had the Champions League final in St. Petersburg removed from them. And yet Israel keeps playing.
Exactly, as you well pointed out, Enda, when it came to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, FIFA were very quick to act. It only took them actually 4 days to ban Russia from international competition. So we ask ourselves, after everything that we had to witness in Palestine, especially during the 15 months that Israel brutally launched an aggression on Gaza, why is it taking so long for FIFA to act? Like the silence has been deafening completely. I mean, only last year, FIFA delayed taking a decision 4 times. And there is plenty of evidence of Israel violating FIFA's rules, let alone international law. Let's talk about the football authorities' laws. They have been violated so many times over the 15 months of genocide that we have witnessed, and we see the violence now extended to the West Bank. But it's not only that. We have to remember the 76 years of occupation that Palestine has been suffering. We have to remember the fact that FIFA has done nothing about Israel having teams playing based on Palestinian land. This is a complete violation of FIFA statutes and regulations. And you can totally talk about hypocrisy, double standards. We are already in 2025. There has been a lot of bad atmosphere surrounding not only Israel's national team games, but also every Israeli club game that has been played. We remember what happening in Amsterdam when Maccabi Tel Aviv played Ajax, the whole chaos that was around the game. FIFA can even ensure the safety of its own football fans now. So yeah, there's plenty of grounds where to punish Israel at the moment, but no action has been taken. And the silence from FIFA so far, there is no explanation to it. I mean, the Palestinian Football Federation has been asking for and demanding for justice when it comes to all this violation of statuses from Israel. But yeah, FIFA just keeps delaying a decision, and so far we don't know whether they will be taking action and when. There is no answer to this yet.
Panos, how much of a headache is this campaign for FIFA then? Every weekend, seeing pictures online, TV cameras are in every football stadium in the world, and they're seeing more and more clubs and their fans get behind this campaign.
Well, it's clearly a problem for them. Well, talking about double standards that you just talked, it's quite true. And the thing with FIFA right now is that they are against involving politics into football, but in many occasions, they have done that by themselves. So what FIFA have to ask themselves right now is, should we follow the political route? Like if you see with Russia, for example, the US, the EU, they imposed sanctions on Russia, and straight away FIFA imposed sanctions on the teams. Now the US, the EU, they don't impose any sanctions on Israel, and FIFA will not take the initiative to say, well, let me deal with this on my own way. I'm going to take my political stance and say right now that Israel will be banned from from international football because 1, 2, 3, 4. So this campaign should be worrying the FIFA officials, but from the other side, there has been from all the football governing bodies, either it's FIFA, either it's UEFA, either it's the Spanish La Liga, or any other competitions, there has been a guideline saying that we don't want to use politics, social matters, or religious matters into football. And that's the line they are following right now, whatever the fans say.
Mohammed, how do you feel about the so-called double standards we're seeing then? Russia get banned immediately, Israel play on.
That is exactly what you said. It's just double standards. We came to realize that the world is a very unfair place. So it's just, to be honest, if we keep, personally, if I keep thinking about it, I'm just gonna go crazy, basically, But You just have, for me, I just have to start living with it. And I've been living with it because it's something that I cannot control. The only thing I can do is just talk about it and try to raise awareness about it. And to be honest, that's the most thing, like that's probably the maximum that me personally, that I can do. Like I don't have the power or authority to, change these kind of things. But, we pray for, that that they take action against them, because to be honest, it's just if they ask to be fair against, Russia for what happened between them and Ukraine, we also ask the fairness and the same equal treatment, for what's been happening in Palestine. And we're not only talking about football, we're just talking about basic human needs and human life in Palestine that we haven't been, having the right to, to live or the basic needs that the human body needs to live. We don't get that like other people do outside of Palestine. So it's just it's a matter of these minimal things that a person needs to live, basically.
Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. And if you like what you see there, please do hit that subscribe button. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.